back to another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam, and we're going to press on with chapter 8. And just to let everybody know before we kick things off, at this time, Sunday 28th, 5:42 a.m., I have finished the final of the lessons for Logic in the Bible for now. I'm thinking that maybe every 7 or 8 chapters of this book, of this work that we work on, I'll do a few more. But they're there for your enjoyment, to refresh skills as well, because they are the application of the tools that we learn here. And yeah, so if you want to check those out, feel free. If you don't want to, it's no big deal. You don't need to. It's just, yeah, they're for your convenience and your viewing pleasure. So we're going to continue on with this now. So, diathesis delegontai haestin eukeneta kai taku metabalonta. So here, I may have even translated this in the last time I looked at it, but anyway, I'll go again. So here we've got dispositions, things you're disposed to or inclined to doing. And they are said as being that thing which is like easy to move, easy to dislodge, and quickly changed. Why easily moved? It's easily moved from state to state, to opposite, to contrary to contrary. Things in that sense, okay? So it's not a fixed state. Imagine if we thought about the heat of the sun, the temperature of the sun. Is that eukaneta? No, that is not eukaneta. That is dyskineta. That is hard to move, hard to dislodge. Stars can become very cold. There is a star, I think I mentioned it before, that is about the temperature of one of our poles, polar regions. So yeah, they can get cold, but it'd be hard to move the temperature of our sun, of our star. Okay, so if you look here, what is eukaneta here? Well, eukaneta here is the position of the boat, the temperature, the body temperature of the men aboard. Okay, they can quickly become cold, or if they work too hard, too hot. Eukaneta can be even like the position of the bird, the strength of the wind. Okay, sometimes it blows a gale and then just dies off. All right, so that's eukaneta. All right, metabalonta, taku metabalonta. What can quickly change? Well, here, what can quickly change is a person's emotion. All right, so they might be quite bored and dull in a sense of ennui, and eventually, or occasionally, they might see something in nature so beautiful that it raises their emotion. Just for maybe 10 seconds, their emotions go from dull to I want to use the old sense of the word awful, full of awe, awful. They're full of awe at maybe a breaching whale, some awful display such as that. Okay, so let's continue on. Hoion thermotais kai katapsukis. What a beautiful word. Katapsukis kai nosos kai hugiaia kai hossa ala toyota. So starting off with thermotes, that one should be quite recognizable, even if you don't study Greek or know how to read the Greek letters yet. Thermotes, thermal, thermometer, thermostat, heat. Okay, so hoion, heat, kai katapsukis. This katapsukis is a verb and a noun in a way. Katapsuko means I freeze or I cool down something. Katapsukis means the freezing or the rapid cooling down of something. So you've got the heating up and the cooling down. So both the heating up and cooling down are quickly changed and easy to move. So they're dispositions. And we go here. So we've got nosos, which is disease or illness. Kai hugiaia, which is health, okay? And kai hosala toyota, and all other things such as these, okay? So we can go from a state of health to illness and illness to health quite quickly sometimes. Even with a placebo, we can go from being healthy to ill. I've seen this all the time as in my time as a teacher, I see that some students, when they are quite alarmed at some symptom or some injury that they've got, if they can easily be distracted or convinced that they're not actually sick or ill. And I'm sure parents listening to this or people with younger brothers or sisters know that that's the same thing. It can be quickly changed. And even in modern medicine today, we've got things like penicillin that can quickly change someone's health. So they are also diatheses. They are dispositions. All right. Diakaitai mengar pos katatautas hoanthropos. Right. So diakaitai is like disposed or inclined. For, on one hand, mankind is disposed towards these things in such a way, and taku de metabalai ek thermu psukros genomenos kaektu hugiainain isto nosain. So he's just giving some examples here, and he's saying, men are disposed towards these things in some way and somehow. For example, they quickly change metabalai, he, she, or it changes from heat to cold. Okay, from out of heat we have cold. Psukros is related to katapsukis. It just means cold or cool, right? Doesn't have that intense feeling of katapsukis. Someone or something that is temperature-wise quite hot can become quite cold. What's a good example of that? So at this time of battle, they would be sweating, they would be profusely sweating, they'd be panting, they would be thirsting, their tongues would be stuck to the roof of their mouth, their throats would be parched and sore. Their clothes would be stuck to them from sweat. But come night, and here near the ruins of Babylon, where it almost reminds me of Clearchus, or it could be Cyrus the Younger, okay? In this field, when night comes, it will get very, very cold. And all these men will go from a state of heat to cold, all right? Because it's a disposition. It's easily changed, okay? Easily dislodged. So let's go back to the logic. All right, so what was the other example he gave? Becomes genomenos kai ektu hugiainain isto nosai. So hugiainain as a this is where we get the word hygiene from, by the way, these two words, hygiene. It's also a Greek goddess, hygiene, all right, but let's not get distracted by that. So I like to translate this as hail. Someone is hale. Now, we usually use this of older people who are still really healthy and robust, right? He's a hale man. Usually means that's an old man, but he's not frail, okay? So, but I like to use it in a broader sense and translate as that, hale. Someone is hale, and someone is ailing for nosai, okay? So, difference between hale and ale. Ailing. So I don't really need to leave that there, but the difference between the two now, and as you can see, it's a stative sort of thing that we're experiencing. So for now, she might feel quite ill and depressed, but those emotions can change. Maybe she is purchased at this bridal I can't tell if it's a bridal market. I think it is a Babylonian bridal market, by a husband who is the perfect match for her, like a soulmate, and right now she's full of trepidation, which is an emotion that comes and goes. She's full of anxiousness that comes and goes, okay? She's full of, as we say in English, butterflies, right? Her stomach is unsettled. She was that fluttering feeling, and she doesn't know what's going to happen. But come the next day, she's already feeling much better. She's realized that the one who's purchased her as a bride comes from a great family, who knows if it's wealthy or not, and is the soulmate for her, right? She thinks about 40, 50 years ahead of her that she's got with this husband, and she's over the moon. So even emotions are easy to change in that way, okay? And she might feel quite ill right now because of her emotional state. We all know how emotional states can actually affect our physical state. But as soon as she realizes her good fortune, we also know how good fortune and a turn of luck can make someone feel healthier. Hormones are related to that as well. If a man is always losing, his hormones go down in a negative way. And if a man starts winning, his hormones go up. Testosterone starts producing and other things like that. So we can see how all these dispositions are quite connected to one another and related. And current medical science reinforces these ideas, doesn't fight against them in any way. So let's press on. Hosautos te kai epiton alon. I me tis kai au auton tuton tu kanoi dia chronu plethos e de perfusiomene kai aniatos e panu discunetos osa. Let me stop there. There are 3 pieces to this. The first part, and in such a way, according to all of these other things, not unless someone, and tu kanoi, this is optative present, third person singular, and it means like it might happen, or he might, and it's with the genitive, through the fullness of time, become a second nature. All right, so not unless, so these things all change and whatnot. That's what he's saying up here. These things, easily change and whatnot. But he's saying not unless they somehow, through the fullness of time, become a second nature. And we know how that is the case. Okay, so take another one. This lady is quite dejected. She's looking off into the distance. Actually, you know what? This one's better. She's looking into a mirror at her own appearance. So right now, at the bridal market, she feels somewhat vain or obsessed with her looks. But maybe she keeps that up to the point where it becomes a second nature, where she does it every day, every moment. She's always worrying about how she looks, and is she looking the most beautiful she can look? That will become her second nature, for better or for worse. So the philosopher is addressing the point that, yes, these things are quickly changed and are easily moved. However, they do have the possibility of becoming a second nature. If you are a reader of Koine Greek, I know that this word for you means inflated. I think it's in Corinthians that Paul uses this quite rare verb to say that knowledge inflates us. But that is not how the Attic Greek is using it, especially not in Aristotle. He's using it in the purest sense of the etymology of fusio, like nature, and perfusio means becoming like a nature, right? And Aristotle opens the door here to the idea of a second nature, only in the sense of moral second nature. Like your morals are so fixed that it becomes a second nature. Now this word, kai aniatos, right? So incurable, panu discunetos usa. So hardly or very difficultly moved nature or being, right? Usa. Remember in chapter 1 how we looked at that word so much. Chapter 5 as well, we looked at that word so much. Usa, being, essence, substance, okay? It means so much of that really important, stable, anchor stuff, right? Completely different from accident. So he's actually saying that this moral state it can become something that's not even like an accident. It's like your nature, okay? Perfusiomene, all right? And aniatos, right? So incurable, irremediable. Heinan dis issos hexinede prosagoriuoi. So at this point, it becomes equal to a habit, right? It should be said as like being a habit, okay, when it becomes ingrained like that, second nature. And at this point as well, we can actually address people. They can be addressed by that. Okay, if you don't know her name, you can call her the vain girl. Who's another good example of? Let's go to Homer, Omer, right? He's apotheosis. So Homer's there, and as we all know, he is the prince of poetry. Dante has him with the sword, leading the poets and the intellectuals in limbo. And when we think about these things becoming habit and addressing them by that, we can call him like the story weaver, all right, because that's what poets do. Or you can just call him the poet because his habit of poetry has become so ingrained. And people do just call him the poet with the capital P. What's another one, better one? We can call people the brave man, the adventurer, the adventuress, the holy, like holy as well. We can, because the habit of holiness is so ingrained into a person, we can call him the holy one, or as we like to say, a saint. So on and so forth. We can address people by these second natures. So it seems that we want to, we're inclined to call these hexais, habits. This is a new sentence, by the way. Polychroniotera, okay? Discunetotera, polychroniotera. So much more time, longer lasting, and discunetotera, harder to move. So he then contrasts what we've been learning with the habits that are longer lasting and harder to move. And obviously you can see that if you've got a second nature such as this, it fits the category and the criteria of being a habit. All right, so it's a loop. And that's why I said a few lessons ago that yes, all habits are dispositions, but not all dispositions are habits. All right, it just matters about how long that disposition's been going on for, because if it goes on for long enough, it then becomes a habit. So you can't, in a practical takeaway, before I wrap this lesson up, you cannot be cynical for one day and then call yourself a cynic, or be called a cynic. It's unfair. No one can call you a cynic for being a cynic one day. If you're a cynic for like a year straight, without pause, without break, then yeah, it's fair that you call yourself a cynic and other people call you a cynic. Is it a second nature at that point? That's arguable. It's hard to really define a time limit for when it becomes a second nature. But a second nature, is quite a serious thing to say. It's, if it's his second nature to be pious, it feels like it's got to be very intense if it happens within a year, or it's just got to be over a long time. Okay, intensity does play a part, of course, but time is really the thing to consider here. Okay, so we'll leave that there. We'll wrap up this lesson there. Hope you found something interesting. As you can see, it's quite practical. It's quite related to our lives and ethics and morals. Okay, so hopefully there are some out there who are studying psychology or interested in psychology who are finding this interesting. And yeah, as always, si semper fortis in opere. My name is Liam, and I'll see you next time.